My name is Algimantas. I live in a small East European country, Lithuania. I train spiritual teachers, set up the living temple, the Paradise Trinity I am living temple. The Paradise Trinity hyphen I am is creator. Creator made up of 4 personalities, and they are all in absolute spiritual unity. So these 4 personalities have no outer form, no what we call body, because they are the sources and centers of eternity, infinity. They have no limits. Meanwhile, the outer form would right away make the boundaries of a certain personality. Creator is the source and center of personality. And our personality, indwelling this body, has been given as an eternal gift to each of us. So, spiritual teacher that I'm training is the key figure in humanity. Without a spiritual teacher, it is impossible to implement Creator's evolutionary plan, because the teacher, spiritual teacher, gives the direction that corresponds to the evolutionary plan that has been designed by Creator himself. So that's why it is a necessary thing for every spiritual teacher first to discover Creator within, so that he would begin to feel the real, true personality of Creator within, discovered by him as a spiritual personality. Because it is possible to discover Creator, as Creator has bestowed his own spirit, called thought adjuster, upon the personality's mind. So that's why it is possible for a spiritual personality to discover the source and center of spiritual personality. And nowhere else but within this spiritual personality indwelling this visible material body. When I think about, say, the current situation in the world, in humanity, I begin to trace back different episodes in human history. And when I get back to Jesus, that is to the history of 2,000 years past, I see that nowadays Jesus' gospel is not being implemented by the church, even though the church covers itself under the Jesus name. But the church is empty, void of the living content of Jesus' gospel. the fatherhood of God and the brotherhood of man. And I come just to ponder, is it better to make a compromise to Jesus' gospel in order to attract more followers, believers, or to be uncompromisable, even though there are no followers? But you, as the one proclaiming the true and living gospel of Jesus, remain loyal to Jesus' teachings. And now I'm firmly standing on the second position. No compromise in the spiritual sphere. Just imagine, even the closest disciples of Jesus, his 12 apostles, misunderstood his gospel, the fatherhood of God and the brotherhood of man. All the apostles and Jesus himself were Jews. And at that time, Jews did not consider pagans to be equal to them. Jews considered themselves to be the chosen people by Yahweh to carry on the word of Yahweh to all people. And pagans didn't have one God idea among them. They had a pantheon of different deities. So that's why they did not consider that pagans are worth something in this sort of in this sort of sphere of the activity of man. So distorted gospel of Jesus that has been made by the apostles, and especially by Peter, who first offered to all apostles, let's go and proclaim the resurrection of Jesus. Resurrection of Jesus, rather than the gospel of Jesus. And when appeared Jesus after the resurrection in a Merontia form, he warned the apostles, don't distort my gospel. My gospel, you know, is the fatherhood of God and the brotherhood of man. Meanwhile, resurrection is the outcome or the result of your faith in this gospel. So that's why you don't have to proclaim the result of the gospel. You have to proclaim the gospel. And there was the leader of the apostles of John the Baptist. His name was Abner. he associated with Jesus personally quite a lot. Jesus rented him many teachings, and he remained the only one loyal out of this multitude of the disciples of Jesus and the apostles of Jesus. But even his name has not been mentioned in the New Testament. He didn't make any compromise. Paul, who set up Christianity, used to be just the person who was persecuting the followers of Jesus. And he had the name then Saul. But when he fell down off the horse on the Damascus way, he got blinded. And all of a sudden, he felt some sort of like apparition. And he asked in fear, "Who are you?" And the voice responded, "I'm the one you are persecuting. Do not be afraid. You will regain your vision." And when he regained his vision, he even changed his name just to separate himself from his notorious past. He changed his name into Paul's. Otherwise, he has never encountered Jesus in his life. And all he knew about Jesus was from the stories that were told to him by Peter, Apostle Peter. Then Paul also used the Greek philosophers' philos, certain assertions on religion, on God, and of course the Jewish religious certain assertions, and his own speculations about God. So out of this appeared Christianity. And Paul's gospel might be defined as Jesus died for our sins on the cross, so he, in a way, redeemed our sins on the cross. He resurrected, and he is the main chief priest of the church. And the brethren of the church community are these true brethren. It seems, well, maybe also good and attractive to people. Jesus is the central figure. What's bad of this compromise? because Jesus was teaching all his disciples, the Father is for all, for pagans and Jews. The Father is the leader of the kingdom, heavenly kingdom you have to set up in your heart. It's not a material king, neither it is a material kingdom. That's why it was just a big stumble of all the apostles to understand it. They had any idea about any possibility of setting up the heavenly kingdom in one's heart. They have never heard such a thing before. So it was too high for them. But Abner was a good soil for Jesus' personal teachings rendered to Abner, and planting the seed of the heavenly kingdom in his heart, in everyone's heart. And he tried just to implement Jesus' living gospel in his life and carry this gospel to others. But whose blame that the living gospel of Jesus has been so much distorted? Is it the blame of Peter? I wouldn't say so, because his mind could not embrace the idea that Jesus was rendering to all. It was too much for his mind. So, is it Paul who should be blamed for this distortion of Jesus' living gospel? No, because he heard about Jesus and his gospel from Peter's lips. So it seems to be, natural. This distortion. Yeah, but there is one essential but. Peter and Paul quarreled with Abner because Abner was trying to attract their attention. They are distorting the living gospel of Jesus. Since neither Peter nor Paul were spiritually born of spirit, they were controlled by the animal origin mind, which is always revengeful and eager to dominate others. And they could not allow that Abner would teach them. That's why they even turned out him of the city, and Abner had to leave the city. Jesus, during the Last Supper, left his own commandment while he was setting up the new supper that they would organize in his remembrance. love one another as I loved you. Love one another as I loved you. This commandment, had it been performed by Peter and Paul, they would have never quarreled with Abner, and this discord would have never happened, and they would have worked collectively in brotherhood, and they gradually would have realized what a mistake they have done, and they would not be too scared to correct this mistake. And this mistake was a very high price that humanity is paying now, 2,000 years later. We have over 40,000 different sects of this Christianity religion. Even though this religion has not been mentioned a single time by Jesus. It was already the distortion of Jesus' living gospel. This is the outcome of this distortion. But even in this case, the mother religion, Christianity, vanished altogether because it split into over 40 different sects. Catholics are the biggest sect, the biggest, that has over maybe 1,500,000,000 believers in this sect. But what is even worse, 600 years, well, close to 700 years after Christ, Muhammad appeared, and he set up Islam just because he did not acknowledge Jesus as the Son of God. He wanted his own interpretation. So that was in human history a big growing force of opposition to Paul's Christianity. But even Islam religion has split into different sects. So all these sects use the same source. Muslims, Quran, and Christians, the Old Testament and the New Testament. But there is no unity. Jesus was the Prince of Peace. The Prince of Peace. Not this warrior Messiah who would liberate Jews from the oppression of pagans in the Roman Empire. But there is no peace because there is no living gospel of Jesus. The one who proclaimed it was Abner. But his name was not even mentioned in the New Testament because of the self-pride of John and of other authors of the Gospels. So that's why the mind that is controlled by different passions rather than by creators leading from within, that pacifies mind and allows the spiritual mind of the spiritual personality to reveal itself in love in brotherhood, in justice, in wisdom, in cosmic insight, in beauty, goodness. So this mind would have embraced Abner's different reproaches, so that subsequently Abner called Paul the biggest hypocrite who betrayed the living gospel of Jesus. So what is better? To remain unknown, as is the case with Abner, or to be glorified by Christian church, Peter and Paul, 2,000 years after Christ? I stay with Abner, not with Peter, neither with Paul. They messed up the teachings of Jesus and the living gospel, so that even now we have plenty of additional problems that would have been solved had Peter and Paul listened to Abner's critical remarks about their joint work. So now I think I would gladly meet Abner after my resurrection. I just desire to shake his hand for his resilience, staunchness, and loyalty to Jesus. I represent Creator as his ambassador to this world, and I'm also apostle of Jesus and his partner, Nebuchadnezzar. And I'm loyal to both Creator, the Paradise Trinity I am, as I took oath of loyalty to the Paradise Trinity I am, and to Jesus and Nebuchadnezzar. We are in spiritual unity. That's why. Ponder my words, because these are the words of Creator himself passed through my lips for your own benefit, for your own well-being, each of you.